Happy Monday, guys. It's Coach V here. Welcome to another Made New Monday. So, this week we are going to be talking about the topic properly positioned. This week's episode of my podcast, Transformative Talk with Coach V, we're going to talk about something I think that's kind of an overflow from last week's episode when we talked about you have the advantage, and we talked a little bit about being in position. So we would focus more on getting ourselves in position versus trying to always get the advantage. So there was a little bit of overflow. So that's why I did this week's podcast on being properly positioned. And we talk about um, why it's important to be properly positioned. This week's transformative thought is this: my position determines my ability and capacity to receive. And so when we are properly positioned, we're in a place, we're in a space where we can truly receive. And for the past few weeks, that's a word that has come up when we talked about love on Valentine's Day, that in order to truly be in a place to give love, we have to learn to receive love. We have to learn to give ourselves grace and give grace to others and offer that compassion to others. And so it's a constant refilling or replenishing that God will do. And this is the same thing when we're looking to truly progress in the things of life and do well and continue to grow and develop. There, we have to be in a place to receive. And so we have to be properly positioned in order to receive. But that also means there is work that we must do on ourselves to receive and then be able to give others, to be able to transfer. I love to be able to quote my pastor when there are things that he says that are so relevant and yet so true. You know, the things that God has for us are for us to experience and to enjoy and then to be able to transfer. And that's so true with everything in life. When we talked about love last week, when we talked about having the advantage, and even this week as we talk about being properly positioned, there's work that we have to do on the inside. We have to address some things. We've got to get some things cleared up. We've got to get some things healed so that we can truly enjoy everything that God has for us. That gives us the advantage, and it ensures that we're properly positioned. And then we have made the blueprint. We've created a blueprint for those that we're connected to, those we have impact and influence over. They can walk in those footsteps because they've seen us walk the journey. We didn't just talk about it, but we actually walked it. We've actually gone through the hard things. We've actually had to go through the healing process. And so we're able to provide inspiration and encouragement for those that are watching us. And even though they may not say one word to us, you can believe for sure that they're watching you, that it's having influence, that it's inspiring them, that it's empowering them, it's giving them a boldness to take that step, that leap of faith, to begin their process to healing, their process to transformation, their process to receiving, letting go. So even though they may not ever tell you, they're looking, they're paying attention to it. They may not like your post, they may not um, comment on your post, but they're definitely gaining inspiration and encouragement from what you're doing. And they're seeing the fruits of your life. They're seeing the fruits of your labor, your sacrifice. And so they're willing to then take that step to get themselves in a position, to get themselves properly positioned. And so this week we just talk about what it is to be properly positioned, and that we'll focus more on that so that we can receive what we need to receive. You know, God is very strategic. He's very intentional with everything that he does in our lives. And so we have to be properly positioned so that we can hear the things that we need to hear. We can get those instructions from God so that we can do everything that we need to do in the way that He needs for us to do it, so that again He gets the glory out of our lives. People are then empowered, they're encouraged, they're inspired to just seek wholeness for themselves, to seek healing for themselves. But it has to start with us being properly positioned. We can't wait on somebody else to do it. We can't just sit on the sideline waiting for the next bus to come along, and maybe the assignment won't be as hard. Maybe God won't require so much of me. We cannot manipulate God. We cannot tell God, well, nope, that's too hard. I don't want to do that. That's not what He called you to do. If He's called you to that thing, God will be faithful to get you through it. He will make sure you have everything that you need. His desire is that we are properly positioned so that He can do the great things that He needs to do for us. And if we think about it, He had to be properly positioned. He had to lay down His will for the will of His Father. He had to say, not my will, but your will be done. And so what He's asking of us is something that He had to do. And so when we think about it like that, it should really change our perspective. When we have the proper perspective, then we can then begin to be properly positioned. That was a good one. When we have the proper perspective, then we are beginning to get ourselves properly positioned. God is not asking us to do something that He was not willing to do. He was willing to give His Son. His Son was willing to do what He needed to do, what He knew He had to do, so that we could even have this life. And God is not, He's not asking us to take the lashes. He's not asking us to wear the crown of thorns. Now, I know it may feel like it sometimes when God is asking us to make a sacrifice and we're just like, no, I've done enough. I can't do this. I'm too afraid. And that's an attitude that we have to change. That's a mindset that has to change. We have to be willing to say, not my will, but your will be done. We have to be willing to be properly positioned so that God can do great things. This life, we have to realize, is so that others will come in, that we're just a point of light, that we have impact and influence on our jobs, in our families, in our home, in the grocery store, at the gas station, wherever we are. We've made a decision and a commitment to live this life for Christ. And so there are going to be things that He's going to ask us to do that keep us on track, that keep us focused, that keep us properly positioned so we can hear from Him, so that we can continue to have that influence and impact in the world and win souls to Christ. So it's not about us. It's all about what God wants us to do and what He needs to do for us and to us and through us. You hear me say this all the time. We have to lay ourselves aside. And so in laying ourselves aside, we are going to always be properly positioned. And that's what we talk about on this episode. And we talk about ways to get ourselves properly positioned and have that proper perspective in things. And so I hope there's something that was said on this week's episode of Made New Monday. I hope that you will join me every Monday for Made New Monday. And we talk about the week's episode. If you have not listened to my podcast, I hope that you will go to Spotify, go to Anchor, check it out, download, share, catch up on season 1, Transformative Talk with Coach V, that you will stay connected with me through my Facebook page, Made New, LLC, on Instagram at I Am Made New. Send me an email. I love to hear from you. I love to hear the things that you may have learned just from listening to the podcast. And my email address is madenewllc@yahoo.com. And so until next week, remember today is a great day to be made new. And I am always, always rooting for you. Until next